All right, so for our latest project, we're going to be taking a look at this very nice old Pioneer integrated amplifier. This is model SA-9100, and this unit comes from a friend of mine who got this from his late father's estate and thought I might like to have it. So he gave it to me. It's in excellent condition. The front of it doesn't appear to have any scratches on it, and even the cabinet is in real good shape. But it does have an issue, has a common problem with a lot of these older vintage amplifiers that you get some popping in the speakers. And I haven't isolated whether it's the main amp or the preamp that's causing it. And one of the reasons for that is it's highly intermittent. It doesn't seem to do it very often. So I'm hoping in this video we can get it to act up, maybe either by inducing some heat or some cold into the amplifier or preamp, whichever the case may be, and see if we can get this thing to goof up enough to isolate which transistors it is. Doing a little reading online, which I don't put a lot of stock into that, but there does not seem to be any definitive bullet through the heart answer for which transistor could be causing the problem, but a lot of speculation. So as always, we're going to come in, we're going to have a look at the controls and features of this very nice old amplifier, and then we'll get it opened up and see if we can figure out what is causing the popping. As for our intro music this time, I'm going to go back to 1985 for the band Alcatraz masterpiece album, Disturbing the Peace. And I thought it only appropriate to play the song Skyfire. So let's check out a little bit of this, and then we'll get started on the Pioneer. All right, let's take a quick look at the controls and features of the unit, and we'll start over here on the far left. This one will handle up to 3 sets of speakers, and so they give you quite a few options here. Individually, you can select A, B, or C speakers, and you can combine A and B here, or A and C. Right below that, you get a couple of lamps, one for the main power, and then one for the protection. And then you get a power switch right below, right to the right of that, 1/4-inch headphone jack, of course, and then you're going to get some frequency options for your bass and treble adjustments. 50 hertz and 100 hertz on the bass side, and then 10 kilohertz and 20 kilohertz on the treble side. Below that, of course, some high and low frequency filter options, and then a tone defeat switch in case you want to turn the tone all the way off. Right below the bass here, there is a negative 20 dB muting switch. Then we move over to the loudness, of course, and then as far as the volume is concerned, there's 2 stages to this. You have your master volume in the center, and then you have a level set where you can set it for negative 30 dB, negative 15 dB, or 0, which is full power of the receiver. Right below that, balance, and then of course you got your tape monitor options, tape 1, tape 2, and then a dubbing feature between the 2 of them, or duplicate, I guess they would call it here. And then you have the selector switch, which is a little tricky if you've never seen this before. So the top one is tuner, The middle one is phono 1, and then in this position, it moves over to the rotary switch where you have the mic input, phono 2, auxiliary 1, and auxiliary 2. There is a couple of 1/4-inch microphone jacks in the back of the unit. The mode switch here for your stereo or mono options. Of course, they have the normal stereo setting, reverse, and then left plus right for mono, or left and right individually. So setting, looking pretty similar to a lot of other Pioneer products from back in this time. Let's flip it around and we'll have a look at the back of the unit. All right, carrying on from the back of the unit, starting on the left here, phono 1 and phono 2 inputs. Phono 2 also has some impedance options for either 100K, 50K, or 25K. Tuner, auxiliary 1 and auxiliary 2 there. Right below that, we have the 2 ground screws for phono 1 and phono 2, but one of the screws appears to be broken. Seems to be the only flaw I can find in this amplifier cosmetically. And then, of course, the left and right 1/4-inch microphone input jacks. And then they're going to give you some level controls where you can kind of tweak out a few of these inputs, phono 2 and auxiliary 2, and then speakers B has its own separate a level adjustment to where you can make those louder or softer than the A speakers. Tape monitor 1 and tape monitor 2 here, they have them labeled monitor and record. They also label this one 4-channel in, but according to the owner's manual, of course, you would need to have Pioneer's 4-channel quad adapter in order to get this to work correctly. They do give you the record playback DIN connector in case your tape deck has that option on it. Spring-loaded connections for all the speakers, A, B, and C. And then they give you the preamp, power amp in feature here, where you can just simply break the connection between the preamp and the main, which we'll obviously be doing in an effort to isolate the noise that we're hearing. And then, of course, they give you a switch here where you can just have it in normal, connected together mode, or separated with either the subsonic filter on or off. 3 outlets here, 2 unswitched, 1 switched, and then, of course, their bulky fuse holder to the left of that. So, very cool amplifier. Did come with the original owner's manual, and the schematic is in here as well with some writing on it. So it was worked on at one point in its life. And so we'll take a look at the notes made on the schematic and see if we can find the work that was done, and maybe that'll be something that can help us out. But I don't think it was amplifier related. I don't think it was anything to do with that. I think it had something to do with the protection circuitry from just my brief looking at that. So I guess the first thing we want to do, let's go ahead and pop the top off. Let's get some speakers hooked up. Probably not going to start off with the bench speakers knowing that it's going to pop or could potentially pop. I don't want those spikes hitting my tweeters and my bench speakers. So we'll just hook up the burner speaker to this and see if we can get it to goof up, and more importantly, see if we can get it to goof up enough to isolate what might be causing it. So give me a second for that and we'll carry on here. All right, I went ahead and got us a couple of burner speakers hooked up here, and it's been running for probably about 10-15 minutes with no symptoms. And this is the first time it's been plugged in. I got this from him probably in September, and it hasn't been hooked up since. And back then, when it was goofing up, I had 2 occasions to hear it goofing up, and they were completely unrelated. One, it was only on for about 25 seconds and it started flipping out. And then another time, it ran for about a half hour before it started screwing up. So it's going to be a tough one. And then I wasn't able to get it to do it again. So it's going to be a tough one to try to nail down, I think. Very clean on the inside. There's a couple of notable transistors here that, if you read, could potentially be the issue. I believe those are 2SC 1491 maybe. Still has all the original outputs in it. Toshiba, 2SA-679 and a 2SC-1079. So yeah, I'm not sure. About as nice of an example as you can get. We'll take a look at the schematic on this. And some notations were made here. Basically in the power supply here. Guy wrote down the transformer inputs. So the AC voltage coming into the two bridge rectifiers. There's a few other notes on the protection circuit, but I can't imagine this is the problem that was being chased down and never got solved. He said this had not been ran for a long time. It had been in storage for a very long time. There's a couple of pieces here that they notated voltages on. In particular, that transistor right there. But I've had these old Pioneers have issues in the protect circuitry that's not being caused by the amplifier. It's just transistors in the protection circuit will create issues. So yeah, I don't know. I think that my patience for babysitting these units is long since passed. I'm fine with it for a little bit, but not forever and a day. When I had my shop, I never did any shotgunning. I always wanted a confirmed failure. And sometimes it'd sit on an empty bench and run for days, weeks sometimes, before you could get it to goof up and possibly get a chance to see if you could find out what's causing the problem. And if it sat there long enough and I couldn't get it to do it, I'd just give it back to the customer and say, you'll have to bring it back when it's goofing up more. Not replacing a bunch of parts for no reason. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it's January 22nd right now. I might be good with keeping this on the bench for maybe throughout the weekend. So Wednesday, so maybe another 4 days on and off, seeing if I can get it to do something. But as of right now, it is working. So I'll let it run for a little while longer. If anything develops, I'll bring you back. It is not reactive to freeze spray, or at least not in the amplifier, assuming the problem is in the amplifier. So might have to dig in a little further, maybe go underneath, take this cover off, take a look in here and see what's going on in here. And so I'll give it a few more, play around with it a little bit. I'll bring you back if there's anything exciting happens. All right, as I bring you back in here, I went ahead and removed the cover here from the controls and a couple of the other circuit boards, probably tone control. This is definitely protection. It's pretty easy to see where the work was done here, I believe. You can see a transistor that the pins look suspiciously long on. I don't think that it would have came from the factory with the pins that long, but I see solder here that definitely doesn't look factory, like somebody's been working in that area, which jives with what we've seen on the schematic. But I did discover something a little bit more interesting here. If we start tapping on this board, Could it really be as simple as a loose connection where they were working at? Is that really possible? That would make my day if that's what it is. But I can't tell. That board is in such a bad place, I can't really tell. I'm gonna look into it a little bit more, but there is definitely something going on there for sure. Seems to be in this area right here. Right there almost. Yep, there it goes into protect. There's something going on right there. Let me look at that a little closer under some magnification and see if I can spot anything, and then I'll pick back up with you. All right, as we come back in here, I went ahead and got this board freed up to where we can get a little better look at it. I do realize there is a pretty nasty glare, but I did find what I believe is our culprit loose connection. Let me zoom you in here, show you what I'm seeing here, kind of looking right there. And it looks to be, let's see, right here. If I press down on this, let me see if I can find something to do it with. It might be easier that way. If we push down, and then I got my finger under the bottom side of it, I'm going to push back up, and you see that pin come right back through the hole. So I do believe that is where our issue is coming from, right there. Now, right over here, we'll zoom back out a little bit. This is where the work was done. I think I had originally said that the pins on this transistor here led me to believe it might not be factory. I do believe that is factory, but this is definitely not factory. That's fresh solder work, and there's another one over here too. So they were changing a couple of transistors. I don't think this is unrelated. This is just a cold solder joint that developed. There is no issue with what they did here that created this, because they weren't soldering over here. So this is just one that kind of developed. There's the same resistor. I believe this is 390 ohms. Can't really tell from this perspective, but yeah, I think it's 390, and that is it. That is where it's coming from. There's also a few caps on this board that need to be changed, so I am going to go ahead and solder this up. Actually, we'll just do that real quick. Given that it's kind of weird, we'll just take off the old solder and put down some new solder here. Yeah, anytime it's that highly intermittent, you can almost guarantee probably something loose somewhere. And there's a few other solder places on this board that could stand to have some fresh solder. But for the sake of moving the video along, I won't go through all of that. Just hit a few bad spots. And that should do it. I should get it back up and working where it's not shutting off so randomly. And so I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and change the few caps that are bad on this board. And from that point, we'll test it again, but I believe it is done. There's a lot of things you can do to this. There's a lot of recommended transistors you need to change. And I did originally assume that there was issues with some of the driver transistors in the amplifier. And I'm certainly not saying that could not be an issue that develops down the road, but as of right now, it is not. or at least they weren't thermally reactive to freeze spray or heat. So I believe I will let the new owner decide what, if anything, he wants to do to this unit. And I will only address the issue at hand here. I do have someone interested in buying this, so this will be moving along to someone else, but as it sits right now, it's working, or it will be working just fine after we take care of this and take care of a few caps on this protection board. So give me a few minutes for that, and then we'll resume and see how it's working. All right, let me get you back in here and get you caught up. Went ahead and got the power supply board put back in. Went ahead and resoldered the entire board. Wound up changing 10 capacitors, which tipped me off that I don't think we're dealing with the protect board. I think I may have called it the protect board earlier in the video, but indeed what we're dealing with here is the power supply B assembly, AWR032, and the transistors they changed were a 2SA-720 and a 2SC-1318. Can't believe they were chasing down a loose connection, replacing transistors, so we're going to say that they were, at an earlier time, experienced a power supply problem, and that's what led them to change those transistors. It looks like the resistor's loose connection was just kind of a product of time. But yeah, pretty much every one of these caps is bad. Every one of them's open and bad, I guess I should say. But otherwise, it's all running good. I don't think we're going to have any more trouble with the unit cutting out. We can tap on that board now with no trouble at all. Like I said, I went ahead and cleaned it all up, got it all taken care of, replaced all those caps with Panasonics. So that all looks nice down in there. All seems to be working real well from what I can tell. So I think we're going to go ahead and do a final play test on this one. The person that wants to buy this will probably not do anything to it unless there is a problem. And then from that point, I'll probably bring it to me and we can address it again. But for right now, I think this thing's working pretty good. So I'll get you set up in the tripod and we'll do a final play test on this one and we'll wrap it up. All right, so as we pick up one last time, having a look at this very nice old Pioneer SA-9100 Integrated Amplifier. As always, I want to thank you guys very much. Appreciate you checking out the video this time, as well as all the videos on the channel. And as we make our way out of this video, we're going to be listening to a little bit of Blue Murder, the great John Sykes, former guitarist for Whitesnake, in my opinion, the guitarist that made that 1987 album as awesome as it was, passed away about 2 weeks or so ago now. And so once he was let go from Whitesnake, he formed his own band called Blue Murder, and this is one of my favorite albums of all time. So we're going to check out the lead track from this called Riot. And we're going to bump it up a little bit on this very nice old amplifier. And again, as always, thank you guys.